Welcome to Crash Course in Commercial Real Estate. We converted our in-house training program to a podcast to teach you prospecting, negotiation, business planning, and other fundamental skills to become a successful commercial real estate agent. And now, here's your host, Brady Collier.
Shannon, I'm excited to be back. Today we're going to talk about referrals and co-listings. And I've asked Joe Magby to join us. He's with NAI here in Lubbock. And Joe, how long have you been in the business?
This is about my fourth year, I think.
So he's been at the business. He's 4 years down the road. You picture yourself 4 years, this is what you're going to be like.
Okay.
Hopefully not look like.
Yes. And so the reason I chose Joe to talk to you about this today is because of everybody in our company. Joe handles the most referrals, incoming referrals, and he has also co-listed several properties. And this is something that in the commercial real estate industry, in residential, your exposure, you said earlier, your exposure to real estate prior to joining us was basically just you'd sold and bought houses. And houses are almost always listed by one person or maybe a team. But in commercial real estate, something that's different is oftentimes two agents in different offices for different companies, maybe within the same company, will co-list a property. And so that's different than residential. Something that's very common in residential, which you wouldn't have known, is that if you come to me and say, hey, I want to sell my house, and I say I listed your house for you and you're moving to Dallas, I would refer you to an agent in Dallas and I would get a referral fee. And so I thought it'd be valuable to ask Joe to join us today and say, let's talk through situations when you're going to co-list something, building, a space, whatever, with another agent, when you're going to list it yourself, and when you're just going to refer it out to another agent. And so those are three different scenarios, so I just want to talk through those things. So on this, I hope, Joe, to talk about when, who, and why. So let's start with why. Why would you refer something to another agent instead of handling it yourself?
I'd say if I'm not the right person to handle it, so that could be for a variety of reasons. It's not in my area of expertise, or most often it's not in my market. So if I've got a tenant, hey, I'm looking for a space in Branson, Missouri. Well, I don't know anything about Branson, Missouri. Better to refer it to somebody who knows that market, it's going to serve them well. Specifically with tenants that I have an existing relationship that are doing a lot out here in West Texas. I want them to be well taken care of wherever they go, so that anytime I have a real estate need, I call Joe. He's going to hook me up, whether it's him or whether it's somebody that he trusts that's going to take good care of us. So that would be the why. Is if I'm just not the right guy for that, let me refer you to somebody who is.
Okay, that's good, Joe. You mentioned two different things, and I want to drill into both of them. One, you said if it's not in my product specialty, and I want you to talk about that. And then second, if it's not in my geographic area of expertise. So let's start with your product specialty. What do you do? What's your area that you focus most on in the real estate space?
I focus a lot on some retail, but also some industrial, but I'm kind of more of a generalist, so I go in a lot of different directions. But I would say that most of my background is not in, I guess the difference would be as if it was like a net leased asset, something I don't really have. We don't really have a whole lot of experience doing. So if someone was saying that they wanted to pursue those kind of assets or look for those kind of assets, like a multifamily apartment complex, I just don't know a whole lot about that, so let me refer you to somebody who does, versus, hey, I'm looking for an industrial yard in Midland, I've got you covered. I know all about that. Yeah.
So one is whenever you get into this, further you get into the 6 months from now, you're going to say, I really have enjoyed working with the office owners. I've really enjoyed my time that I've spent in land, or whatever that is. That's your product specialty. If it's outside of it, sometimes they're so different you can't serve your client best. And the best real estate agents, commercial real estate brokers, they focus on what's best for my client. And if I'm not best for my client, I'm willing to pass it off to someone who is best. And so, Joe, if you send it off to a multifamily broker, even if it is in your geographic area, Midland, Amarillo, Lubbock, but it's a multifamily apartment complex, what does that call look like? What's that process of referring it out to another agent?
So if it's somebody that I know well, let's say it's somebody who owns electrical company that I've done a lot of work with, and they just want to throw their hat in that ring. So I would call someone with such and such real estate here in town and say, hey, got a client of mine that done some work with, great dude, wants to get into this sort of a asset class or this kind of a look at these kind of properties, and so is this something you'd be willing to take on? And then they do generally what every broker does. Sure. And then it comes down to, okay, well, hey, let me get you all connected, and we'll kind of go from there.
And how do you paper that up? Like, what are the points you're going to negotiate with that person? Sometimes it's you just passing a deal on to a friend, and sometimes it's a formal referral. How do you?
I think it depends on what each side is bringing to the table. So if I'm expecting to hand it off to, I'm pull a name out of the air. If I said it's just a guy like Scott Womack, and he's going to do the lion's share of the work, or really all of the work, and he's going to go find the thing, he's going to go and negotiate, he's going to go bring it to closing, he's going to do all the lion's share of the work, and all I'm bringing is just the relationship that I have with this specific client. Then I might, all of that's negotiable, but then I would say that's the referral. I'm referring this client, and what I'm giving Scott is my relationship credit with this client. He doesn't have to go and earn that. He starts off with this really warm lead, knows what he's about.
And how much do you get paid for that?
So I would generally get paid probably about maybe 20% of whatever Scott would make out of that. And that, of course, is a negotiable number depending on the workload, depending on what we're talking about, I would think. So.
Let me tell you when you don't refer things to people, in the office or out of the office. If somebody calls our office and just says, hey, I'm looking to buy a industrial yard in Midland, Texas. Okay, what's your name? Okay, Johnny. Okay, who are you with? Okay, ExxonMobil. Great. Okay, sounds good. I'm going to have somebody call you. Hey, Joe, I want to refer you Johnny with ExxonMobil, and I want a 20% referral fee. No. You don't have relationship. That's one where you say, hey, Joe's my friend. We're across the office. Joe, this guy just called. Would you call him back? Okay. So the referral is based on the relationship. If you have a relationship with somebody and they call and they want you to help them, but you don't think you're best, you refer the relationship. So Joe pointed that out. It's all about the relationship that you're handing off to another broker. So that's on the referral. And the expectation in the industry is somewhere 20. Sometimes people ask for 25 and get it. Depends on the deal, the type of deal. And sometimes people say, no, I'm not a good person for that referral. Why don't you call so-and-so? Sometimes people reject referrals because your asset, your most valuable asset, your commodity is your time. And so if you're not the person to handle it, pass it off somebody else so you can stay focused on doing what you do. So that's why you send referrals out. And then people are going to refer things into us as a company. NAI offices around the United States call, and Joe's normally their first one because he goes to the NAI conferences. He builds relationships with agent. When they need somebody in West Texas, they refer their stuff out to Joe. Joe, of your total deals that, say, the last 12 months that you've worked on, that you've touched, what percentage of them came through a referral? And I know I didn't tell you this before you came on, so just make a guess.
Somewhere about 20-25%.
That's a quarter of his total business this year will be referred into him from other agents because he works to build relationships with other agents to where there's trust there. So that is the why. Now, who do you refer deals to? And how do you determine the person that you're sending the deal to, Joe?
I'd say, again, it's a relationship. I'm handing off a trust to this new agent or this new person. So it's somebody that I trust, somebody that I know is going to honor them, and it's going to be good to my client. It's going to be knowledgeable. It's going to take really good care of them. A lot of that times that begins with having a relationship with other brokers, and that's why, I think of other brokers as we're not enemies, we're friends. And so, if I want to hand it off to somebody who I know is going to be capable and who's going to be, take really good care of my client. So, common thing in our world, we have a lot of guys who say, okay, hey, we just did a deal in Lubbock. We're trying to work on something in Dallas. Okay, well, so I'll call our NAI office in Dallas, which is a great big shop. Know a couple of guys over there that I've done deals with that have referred stuff to me. So I'll call them, and sometimes I'll call them and say, hey, I've got a guy looking for office space in the Plano sort of area. Is that your area of expertise? And they'll say, man, no, that's not really my area, but you want to call this guy. He's a really, stellar dude. He's, or she is, really spot on, knows her stuff. And so it's really about kind of vetting that out and saying, is that person going to take really good care of my client, or is this a sort of fly-by-the-night sort of thing? And so a lot of that it has to do with having relationships and being able to vet that really well.
But there's times when there's not going to be a relationship. I recently had somebody who wanted to sell an asset in Dubuque, Iowa. Man, I couldn't point to Dubuque, Iowa if my life depended on it. I know where Iowa's at, but I don't know where Dubuque's at. And I don't know anybody there. There's no relationship, small town. So what do? I pull up LoopNet, CoStar, Crexie, pull up those things, and I just kind of vet and say, who looks like the most capable person? And then I'll call and I say, hey, I've got a client who's looking for such and such. Do you have anything like that? Da, da, da. And through a conversation, I can tell, do they know Come Here from Sikkim about commercial real estate? And if not, then they're off the list. So I start with the person who has the most listings in that property type because they normally have the most expertise and people trust them. So that's how I determine who I'm sending referrals to. But that's your responsibility if you're sending an outgoing referral to vet those people really well to make sure your client gets the best service possible. And that person in Dubuque, Iowa is just going to send you a check. And yeah, you write it down, you paper it up, you get it, but people are really good about sending referral fees when you refer them to you.
And I would recommend to anybody, do get that on paper. It sounds like a really kind of nitpicky thing, but if I refer you somebody 6 months, 9 months later, what do we talk about exactly about percentages and who was the client? And yet, if you have it on paper, I don't really have to remember it. But if I talk to that client again 9 or 10 months from now, and they say, yeah, we sold that property in Dubuque, it went really well, then I can go back to this paper and say, hey, so and so in Dubuque, how did that go? And and just now I know where we stood 9 months ago, and it's kind of like the database. I don't have to remember.
That's a really great point. An example of that, I referred a dude a piece of land. I didn't do land. It was a big listing. It was like a $4 million piece of land. I referred it to him. Never heard anything. I got a check 3.5 years later because the land sold. He didn't call me and tell me or anything was under contract, but he had the referral form. Everything was negotiated up front. And so he just said, thanks for the referral. Here's your check. And so sometimes these referrals take forever to come to fruition. But so that's referrals. When to do it, whenever you're not the best for your client. So that's the when, who, and why on referrals. Let's transition to co-listings. Now, this is totally different. But what I wanted to do is frame in your work with other agents for your clients. Sometimes it's referrals. You're just sending it to somebody else, getting a little bit of the commission. But then there's times, and so I want you to talk about when would you co-list something as opposed to referring it.
So that comes back to the relationship. Sometimes I've had people say, hey, I want to co-list this with you because I have this really great relationship with so-and-so Energy back in Houston, and they really want me on this. But obviously the property's out in Midland, and so I want you to kind of help me work it, and we're going to work it together. And I've got a bunch of clients in Houston that might be buyers or might be tenants for this thing. We're going to work it together. And so I think from that perspective, it's kind of it's a relationship, but also what's the workload look like? Am I doing all the labor, or are we doing kind of splitting it 50-50, or how does that work? Am I doing all the marketing efforts?
Or just bringing market expertise. I've had people call me and ask me to co-list something with them, and they were keeping 70% of the deal. And that's another thing about co-listings is when I said referrals, there's a pretty standard percentage that comes with referrals, not so with co-listings. One time I did a co-listing with as a $33 million apartment complex. Three brokers co-listed it. One of them controlled the client. One of them, I don't know how the other guy got in the deal. And I was the local market expert. They wanted comps. They wanted me to do all the showings. They wanted me to handle all the boots on the ground. But they were going to handle all the heavy lifting when it came to it. So I only got 10% of the total commissions. But on a $33 million deal, it was still worth it. It was a good deal. I had to pick some guys up from the airport, drive them over there, do a couple of property tours around Lubbock. I was in it for a few hours, and I got 10% of the commission. So I say all that to say there's not a standard co-listing percentage breakdown. It depends on, you made this point. I thought it was a really good point. Who's doing the work? Who's bringing what? Who's bringing relationship? Who's bringing expertise? Who's bringing time and energy to getting the transaction handled.
Yeah. And I've got one right now in New Mexico where I don't have a license in New Mexico, but I went to another one of our guys in our shop in New Mexico and said, hey, let's co-list this thing. I'm just borrowing your license. I'll do all the heavy lifting. I'll do all the marketing materials. I'll put the sign out there. I will make the calls, and I'll do the showings and all the things because it's a lot closer to here than it was to him. And he gets a little cut of that fee, but he doesn't have to really do anything but just let me borrow his license and run the transaction through that. So that works out really well too, where I get to do it. I get to serve my client who's got properties all throughout West Texas and had just this one in New Mexico that was just across the border. So it's, it works out for everybody. But then again, it's also about that division of labor. And when we were talking about it over the phone, I told him all that. I said, hey, I've got this client, and normally I would just refer it to you, but it's so close to us. Tell you what, all this work and you just get a slice of it, and everyone's happy to not do
maybe
any
5
work.
or 10% in that type of co-listing, and so you may get 95 instead of referring it for get 80% of the commission. You may co-list and get 90, 95. It's always negotiable on those deals. And so that's not just when if it's in New Mexico or if it's in Dubuque, Iowa. Sometimes that's in your own backyard. Sometimes it's in your own office. So let's talk about when is a time you would want to co-list something with Joe?
Well, it's funny you say that, as we are co-listing.
That was a softball. You got to say thank you, Brady, for the softball.
Yes, when you don't know how to do it yet.
Yeah,
and you want to make sure you give the client the best experience, but you need someone with experience on the team.
But what did you bring to that transaction? So
The
for those of you who
relationship.
don't know, Shannon listed a property the day she started working here, and you brought a relationship. You had somebody who called
Right.
you, and then you've actually received 2 or 3 calls since you started in the last couple of weeks of relationships that you had that wanted to work it through you, but he had expertise that you
Right.
needed to guide you through the process. And so that's the perfect example of a co-listing in your own backyard is whenever you have the relationship, but you need somebody else's expertise. It's one of the beautiful things about the industry is the further you get into this industry, the more you realize that all of these relationships that you've built, clients, friends, other brokers, it's all this beautiful web that you get to just come in and work, and you get to work with all these people that you enjoy. Some of them are brokers, some of them are clients, and you're just the one who's creatively responsible for putting it all together. It's one of the really fun aspects of the job.
And it's always nice to be able to tell a client yes. And so when someone says, hey, we're looking at maybe doing a location down in Corpus Christi, do you know anybody? Yes is always a nice thing to be able to say. Sure, yeah, we know somebody. Or even if I don't, hey, I don't know anybody specifically, but we have a great network down there, or we have these relationships already. Let me hook you up with somebody that I know can take really
And
good
you're going to
care
want
of
to
you.
be clear with your client how well you know that broker. Because if you don't know them well, you don't ever want to overrepresent how well you know them. Because if it goes wrong, if they do something without integrity or whatever, because you referred it, there is some reflection upon you as the referring agent. So you got to be careful
Right.
with those referrals too. Any great thoughts? Any other questions or comments on this aspect of our business?
No.
Okay, sounds good. Referrals and co-listings in commercial real estate.